Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome back to the channel. So a bit of a different approach for this particular video. I'm going to keep my ugly mug off the camera for once. Just wanted to do a quick walk down memory lane with this classic Squeeze compilation. Squeeze singles, 45s and under. And I'm going to make a bit of a startling confession. I never bought this record. This particular copy was in the collection of a friend of mine. And he actually got rid of all his records a few years ago, so he gave me this copy. But I never bought this, and there's a particular reason for that, which I'll explain in a moment. So this came out, I think it was towards the back end of 1982, and as we all know, it was the record that brought the curtain down really on the first incarnation of the A&M Squeeze that lasted from 1978 to 82. My memory is telling me that the band that Difford and Tilbrook had already decided to break the band up by the time this came out, and so the track list was sort of a bit of a compendium really of what they'd achieved in the charts up to that point. Now this is the British edition, which I think is different from the American one. The British edition has let's see now, how is it different? I think it's labelled with love, I think, is on the British one, and it's not on the American one. I stand to be corrected. I've never actually owned a copy of the American singles compilation, but I think that one has If I Didn't Love You on it. But we got this version here in the UK, and of course the great irony of this record is that it was a big hit. I think it got to number 3 in the UK charts, and it's so funny because Difford and Tilbrook had spent, 4 years trying to get a hit album. They'd come close a couple of times. East Side Story, I think, was just about top 20. Argy Bargy was maybe top 30 or top 40 at least in the UK. But this was the first time that they'd ever scored a big hit album, number 3. And the sad irony was that the band were breaking up just as it was happening. So it was a bit of a melancholy triumph, really. So let's have a quick look at the charts, the chart placings. I always found this absolutely fascinating. Even though I never actually owned this record, I used to look at it in the collection of my cousin Paul. He had it, so I used to look at this. And let's see now. I'm completely wrong. I thought that the chart placings were on here, and they're not. You've just got the dates. So Take Me I'm Yours, 30th February 78, Slap and Tickle, 31st of the 8th 79. That's just reminded me, actually, we got a different mix of Slap and Tickle to the one that was on the album. That was the version that was on the original 45 that came out. So moving on to side 2, May 81 for Is That Love, July 81 for Tempted, and so on and so forth. And then you've got this track at the end here, And You Get Your Gun. So quick shout out to AD Simpson, one of my friends here on YouTube, Squeeze Friends, his favourite song of all time. We're going to be talking about that song on the channel at some point, hopefully soon, so I won't say too much about it. Just before I quickly share my memories of it, just have a quick look at the inside sleeve. Now this I did find fascinating, and if I'd bought the record as a kid, I was 11 years old when this came out, I would have just absolutely loved these photographs, none of which I'd ever seen before. Maybe with the exception of this one. I saw that photograph of the Sweets from a Stranger lineup. I saw that, I think, in a copy of Smash Hits magazine that came out in about 82. That one is signed, obviously. Some ticket stubs here. This picture I found totally fascinating. They just look so sleazy somehow. Look at Gilson there, my God. And Glenn in his vest and his badge. Chris there doing a little dance. That looks to me like maybe the East Side Story era. That was always a funny picture of Glenn. It was quite cool to get the lyrics as well, by the way. In the UK we'd only had that happen once. That was on the Sweets from a Stranger album. On the back here you've got a really nice photo of Debbie Harry there with Glenn, Harry, Chris and Jules. That must have been when Blondie supported Squeeze, or was it Squeeze that supported Blondie in 78. Nice New York shot of the guys there. That looks to be the Sweets from a Stranger era. You can see John Savannah there, Don Snow. And some other nice pictures. Nice picture of young Chris and Glenn there singing away in their hippie days. And another one there. So, yeah, I mean, I would have just absolutely loved this when it came out. So, why didn't I buy it? Well, for the simple reason I was just too heartbroken about the band breaking up. It was announced on British TV. There was a gig, the Hitchin gig in London, or down south somewhere. Hitchin isn't in London, is it? But it's down south somewhere. And that's where they premiered. That's where I first heard Annie Get Your Gun. So they'd made this announcement, and this album came out shortly afterwards. But I was just so heartbroken that I always, for years and years, I just associated this album really with the breakup of Squeeze and the end of my favourite band. And even though they came back a couple of years later, obviously, and then had an amazing second run, this album was always just a little bit tainted for me. I just never really wanted to own it because I always associated it with the breakup. So yeah, that's my story. Tell me yours. Let me know. Is this an album? I'm going to guess that this is going to be an entry point for lots of people, particularly North American fans. I know it was a bit of a hit in America. I think it was number 43 on the Billboard, something like that. Certainly the biggest incursion into the American charts that Squeeze ever had, I think. And it's quite interesting because, you know, so many of these songs were not big hits. That was the idea of the 45s and under title, was that, you know, most of them were not big hits. You had Up the Junction and Cool for Cats, which were top 5. You had you had Label with Love, which was number 3, I think, wasn't it? And all the others got to, you know, sort of medium chart placings, and, you know, 30s, 40s, that kind of thing. So, but of course, what happened when this album came out, it sort of created the illusion that all these songs had been hits. And to this day, you'll still get people who think that Squeeze had a load of really big hits in the late 70s and early 80s, which is not, strictly speaking, true. You know, they were radio hits, but, you know, the chart placings were not brilliant. Certainly in America, the chart placings were abysmal, but they were, you know, never off the radio. That was the strange thing about it. Anyway, bit of a ramble. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what are your memories of this great compilation with the, I should just mention quickly, the sketch on the front. Always looks like it was done by some sort of Etch-a-Sketch machine, very primitive, but quite funny, quite distinctive, quite eye-catching in its way. So, yeah, anyway, there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.